Jamie, welcome to the Sonya Barlow Show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for saying yes to my very random LinkedIn message and email that you received just a few days ago.
You're welcome. I have a very good entrepreneurial friend that actually spotted it, and she tagged me straight away. So she was like, because she's out of town, she would have been perfect for it too.
Jamie, before we go into your business hustle, it would be great to know what it is that you do and how you ended up in Lisbon.
Okay, great question. So my background is that from the age of 20 years old, I've been working, no, actually even further, takes back until 18, 19. I grew up in Perth, Western Australia, and I started to work for companies doing HR and recruitment way back then. And then I ended up being with a company, joining when I was 20 years old and being with them up until around, maybe I'm not going to give my age number, but it was a decent amount of time. And so, I learned a lot in my journey along the way. I went from living in Australia to traveling as a business development manager in Southeast Asia for my previous company. Had a great mentor. So we spoke a little bit about mentorship, and I'd love to give you my insight with how a mentor has helped me. So I was very fortunate to get the push to really bring me into my stride and the direction in my career, which I was going in from my mentor. So I had a great couple of years working, traveling all around Southeast Asia until I ended up in China for 5 years. So I spent a good year in Chengdu discovering my favorite food in the world, which is Sichuan food, and then moving to Shanghai for 4 years to set up. Back then it was for setting up a office for my previous company, and then from China I decided I wanted to move to Europe. So without a plan I moved to Germany. Shanghai was great. You met so many people, very expatriate vibes, kind of similar to what we have here in Lisbon, but different. So ended up moving to Munich. Slower pace than what Shanghai was. Very, very slow. Didn't really love it. I think it was a little bit too far from what I'd gone from one extreme to a completely different one.
Yeah.
So it was 2020 December where my co-founder said that he had heard a lot about Portugal. Back then, I couldn't just duck back to Australia because of the restrictions. I couldn't also go into Singapore where our company actually started. So I decided, okay, why not? I'll just go to Portugal, ride out the COVID wave for 6 months and then see, if I go back east. Ended up moving here. Absolutely fell in love with it and then decided to stay.
Oh, I love that for you. And I also really admire the fact that you kind of, at least what it sounds like to me, is you went from okay, this is where it's flowing. I'll just go with the flow and I'll just see what I can learn and what I can do, what I can eat and what I can enjoy and who I can be. And then when that doesn't serve me, I'll just go somewhere else.
Absolutely.
But I'm also getting that vibe from you sitting down. Are you generally quite chilled like that?
Yeah, I would say so.
Is that an Australian thing?
Maybe, and then Lisbon's just made it even extra.
It's not a business thing.
Back.
Is maybe what I'm trying to say. It's not a business person thing, right? Because business people are go, 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 go.
Maybe it's an Australian thing. Yeah.
And so what is your business right now? What do you do?
So I have an amazing business. We started it 4 years ago, as I mentioned, based in Singapore, where we have a very socially conscious HR global employment platform. So just to give you a bit of background, me and my co-founder, we've worked in PEO companies for industry for the better half of 15 years each, 10 to 15 years. And we decided, okay, we can take this business model and apply it to different industries and businesses because, and everyone would have noticed that a few of the big name competitors are probably more well-known than what we are. We provide employee of record solutions, outsourced payroll, and global mobility. That's where we really specialize in is relocation and employment of foreigners into different countries.
And how did you make that jump from having a stable salary and income and lifestyle to I'm going to start my own business and I'm just going to take risks for a living?
I think it came both from me and my co-founder that we can do it better.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that was it. We can do it better.
Yeah.
We know how to do it, why not?
Which is really interesting, because one of the things that I say, be that with this talk show, be that with the app we're building, be that with anything I do, I'm like, I'm not doing anything new. I never claim to do it new.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to educate you new into something that's new. I just see a few gaps that are missing, and I'm just going to do it better. I'm going to do it my way, and hopefully that way will impact a whole new crowd that hasn't been impacted before. And there's 7 billion or so people in the world. I think we're good. I think there's space for everyone.
Absolutely. And what we really wanted to do, because we have very shared values that are so aligned, we wanted to create more of an impact business as well. So how we incorporated a social impact is by, and you will appreciate this actually, we upskill the next generation of students in Cambodia because of the...
Yeah. I read on your website.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, this is very dear to our heart, because since we started the business in Asia Pacific, we're constantly putting really talented people into different jobs, but also into countries like China, like Singapore, like Hong Kong, which already is quite rich in talent. And that is the biggest deficit of education in the entire region. So that's why we decided, okay, let's sponsor a child's education for every employee of our clients that's employed through us, so that they can see that they're making a difference, and we can stick to our core values of giving back. So yeah, that was super important for us to incorporate into our revenue model by building Agile.
The interesting thing that you've said there, and it's just because I'm currently at this place where we've been building for 3 years. We started as a social impact first and revenue second. However, there's no right or wrong, but now in hindsight, I'm like, okay, you can only really create real social impact if you have the cash flow and the revenue coming in. And so did you decide that you were revenue first, social impact second, or was it social impact first, revenue second? And how did you kind of navigate those two spaces? Because it sounds like an easy question, trust me, for someone listening to it. But as someone who's building a business from scratch and you want to do the right or relevant thing for your values, I think it's quite a tough challenge.
Yeah, it is. We did incorporate this in the very first year that we established. Obviously, we had to get revenue in first for us to even be able to contribute to a social impact. So yes, it was more revenue first and then social impact second. So yeah, that's how we did it.
And when you first started your business, how did you find your first few clients?
Great question. So we have focused solely on our network first. I think with any entrepreneur, that's where you go. That's where you go first, because your network's going to trust you. They're going to recommend you to their network. That's where you're going to get the quick wins. So that's where we focused most of our energy, and we still continue to focus, because your network always expands and it's never exhausted. So yeah, network first. Then we went into the second year, which I think from the first to the second is like, okay, we're starting to become a real business. Like, we've got a good revenue stream. Now we're getting inquiries coming in through inbound leads. So Google Ads was great for us then. And then you see it getting super competitive going into the third year, right? So we had a great growth year on year. And then you get third year going, oh, okay, Google Ads is no longer working because we have too many competitors in the market that are buying up all the keywords. Everything's getting expensive. So then we had to switch tactics. What else can we do? How can we tap into more networks? How do we need to relook at our service offerings? Do we need to go maybe for a B2C market, which is targeting digital nomads and offering them a package on how they can get the digital nomad visas and helping them with, that unwanted administration of taxes and stuff like that. So then we launched that in the third year. But yeah, the sales cycle it's a tricky one. I wouldn't say one shoe fits all.
No.
Yeah. Sorry, I went on a tangent just then.
You didn't. No, trust me, the whole point of this talk show is there's no such thing as a tangent. If anything, I probably have my own show because I go on so many tangents, and I'm like, I need people to go on tangents with me. And that's why a half an hour show is probably ending up about 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Because when we first started filming, and this was, kind of early 2023, and this is a whole tangent in itself, I was like, right, we're going to stick to 20 to 25 minute episodes. And then those 20, 25 minute episodes actually end up being an hour. And I was like, the hour conversation is too good. I don't really like editing conversational flow. I think there's a natural kind of ebb and flow of how people are speaking and what they're sharing. So I'm going to keep it. And then it was like, now it's 90 minutes. And I'm like, I still don't like editing the actual conversation if the content is of quality. So there's no such thing as a tangent or digressing here. It's just, this is how you think and this is how you want to talk, and this is free space for all because everyone is learning, right? And given that I have worked and I do work in media, I'm also very mindful now that I hear when things have been cut and edited in a way where I'm like, oh, that person probably said something there that you didn't want us to hear, but now I want to know what that is. You've obviously traveled quite a lot and lived in a lot of spaces. What was one space that really kind of culturally shocked you in a way that you weren't imagining so?
I think China. I went there at a very young age. I think it was like my first time in China was 22 years old. Fish out of water. That was a huge culture shock, and then spending so much time there was, I had to navigate it. Probably didn't have the same experience as a lot of other 20-year-olds traveling China at the time. The company I was with, we had a driver, we had an apartment.
Yeah.
Not the same experience, but
absolutely
still an experience all in itself. So yeah, probably China.
And one thing you've touched on there is business travel, especially as a woman. Now, it's funny you say Munich, because one of the first places that I started business traveling to outside of the UK was Germany. And I hadn't business traveled before, but I remember going to Essen, which was near Dusseldorf. So I was told, you're going to Dusseldorf every week. I was like, oh, Dusseldorf, yeah, can't wait, gonna go see the sights. What they actually meant was you get to Dusseldorf airport and then you drive 45 minutes to get to Essen, which is completely different. The only real thing there that I ate was Vapiano's, which is just a standard chain restaurant, absolutely, to the point where after week 3 they were like, oh, Sonya, your usual, and I was like, the fact they know my usual means that I'm here way too much and I've only been here 3 weeks. But I guess the point I was alluding to is no one really teaches you how to business travel. No one teaches you the right or wrong things. No one teaches you how to find the hotel, source your kind of stay, not stay out late with managers, say no or set boundaries. And I remember staying in like a hotel that I felt was really unsafe, but that was in the client budget, and I didn't know how to kind of speak up, or being in positions where I felt like I had to stay later for the dinner because it would make me look more professional even though I wasn't comfortable. In hindsight now, what would you have wished you would have known when it came to business traveling that you wish other women, non-binary folk, marginalized communities know before they get into spaces which they don't feel comfortable in? It's a deep question.
It's a deep question. Let me preface this with saying that when I started business travel, I was only 21. I was completely scared because I remember like my mentor, my boss at the time, he was like, you know, pushing me to like, you can do it like for business development. I was like, no, I'm not this person. I can't do it. So he actually said to me, I will travel with you to every single country for every single meeting until you are comfortable with doing it on your own. Yeah. So I was fortunate enough to have that guide.
Absolutely.
Once I did start traveling on my own though, no matter if you've traveled with your mentor who is a male, who, you know, teaches you the way to navigate these different countries, it still felt weird and uncomfortable to travel on my own when I eventually did it. Yeah, going to places that are not culturally acceptable of women in business in general. So some cultures still looking for the man to walk into the room after you've walked into the room. So that was interesting to deal with. But yeah, in terms of like advice or tips, is one thing I started to do is actually leave the hotel, because if you just stay in your hotel, eat in your hotel because you don't want to explore the area, like it's just going to make you not enjoy the time. So go out and actually explore your surroundings. Do a little bit of research before you're going to a particular place as well to see where maybe the areas you shouldn't go. Ask clients for help with this and advice. A trick I did, like in China, I don't know if you know, but like a business dinner is usually only with men. And it's like a round table, a Chinese dinner. And then, so I was attending a lot of this, and they drink like this alcohol, rice wine alcohol and wine. And I went with one of our clients and their Chinese partner. I was like, I don't want to, you know, drink, I don't want to get drunk. And then my client just goes, just tell them that you're pregnant. They won't force you to do the shots. So I'm just drinking, having a glass of red wine. And when the shot comes around, I'm like, oh, sorry, I can't, I'm pregnant. And they're like, oh, okay. And I was like, okay, that's a good out.
It is a good out, but I also don't know how I feel about that.
It was a bit weird, to be honest.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know if I would advise to use that excuse.
But I can see how it could be a safety excuse if you had to use it.
If you had to use it.
Which is such a sad thing in 2023 that women are like, what is our safety excuse in case we need it? What is that go-to thing that we can say?
I don't think we need one in 2023. Why can't we just say no? We just don't want to do that.
I don't know if we truly live in a society that is ready for that no. I think we do from a perception performative angle of externally that's what they want you to believe. But actually, if you are in a position where you're in business traveling or a dinner or in a space where you are potentially doing business development for a client, for your business, for a company, I actually genuinely don't think that I think we've improved.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of improvements, but I don't think we're at a point where we can be like, no, don't want to do this. Because, and what I mean to say, sorry, is I don't think we're in a position where just a no full stop is enough. I think it's a no comma because X.
Yeah.
Is maybe what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and definitely there's a lot of specific industries, unfortunately, where are so male driven that for females it's going to be harder to say no. Yeah.
And also it's interesting, so I work with a lot of companies in tech, fintech, financial, kind of the financial and banking sector, recruitment. So generally and typically heavily male-dominated industries.
Yeah.
And I talk to a lot of their women in tech and ERG, so employee resource group teams. And a lot of the time they're coming to me to be like, Sonya, off the record. I'm like, right, off the record? Off the record, our companies say they're diverse and inclusive, they want to be. But actually, our leadership is still very white, elite, male-dominated. We don't have the females in here, but also the problem is that the males don't really want the females there because they want to be their authentic selves. And some of that includes a boys' network, some of that includes random banter, some of that includes not having to think before you speak. And so how do we actually change the dial when the decision makers are also gatekeepers, even though externally it's different, but internally not much is being done?
This is such an interesting question because if you think about the future of work and where we're going, so remote work was not a thing that was even looked at before COVID. And then all of a sudden there's a shift.
Yes.
Where it's become more and more acceptable and companies are now remote first companies. I think we will gradually get there, especially with our generation as we end up being that management board.
Absolutely.
And especially even more so with the generation below us. They're so switched on when it comes to diversity and inclusion, and they're probably going to make the biggest impact into the future of work and what that looks like in 10, 20 years.
You said that, 10, 20 years. It's not an immediate fix, and I think
It's
a lot
not.
of people are expecting an immediate fix. And I think a lot of that comes from even the social platforms and instant gratification we have, but there's no such thing as an immediate fix.
But they've been talking about this already for 10 years. So
Of course they have.
10, 20 years, maybe even 50 years, right? And we're slowly evolving and we're progressing and we're getting to that stage. But it takes a whole generational shift for that to happen.
And you're completely right. I think the next generation, the Gen Zs of the world, but also the alpha babies of the world, they're not going to be here putting up with the same nonsense. They'll have other nonsense to put up with.
Yeah.
Right? Of course.
They're not going to care about this nonsense.
But not this one. They're not going to be like, oh, gender, we're still at gender. It's going to take another 300 years according to the UN for equality. Yeah, we're fine with it. They're like, no, we want it now. Like, what is the wait?
Yeah.
Why are we not doing anything? Like, why is it that a male and a female doing the same job are still paid differently? Why? Like, all you have to do is balance that out. And teach them relevant skills so they can go balance it out themselves through negotiation or through confidence or through getting the career knowledge they need or the mentors, whatever it might be. That they're going to be like, not only is it the why, they're like, what are we waiting for? And I love that boldness about them. And I think that's really what we're trying to incorporate in the conversations moving forward, is that boldness. But one reason as to why I also want to do kind of this, where not only am I interviewing great stories and people who are ordinary trying to be extraordinary, but also when I'm traveling, is because I'm so into traveling, and I always have been, but I find the travel industry and the tech industry, especially that intersect the media industry, the storytelling industry, the motivational speaker industry, lacks the diversity that it actually truly needs and the representation that is key for the different intersectional groups that exist. And now you've got, I don't know if you knew or if you've heard, but just a couple of weeks ago, there was a conference that was found to be pretending to have female speakers.
No?
So I can't remember the exact conference name, and I'm sure when I remember it'll be somewhere in the comments or description. They had AI generated female speakers on their announcement board for a few years, were working for big companies like Microsoft, as an example, but weren't real, just to attract sponsors and donators and people to the actual event.
Oh, wild.
And in 2023, again, the question being, why are we still doing this? Why are we still speaking about this? How are you telling me that there's not enough women to actually take those spots and speak on those subject matters, that you have to go and you have to go create them and pretend what to sell media placements? Second thing is, you've got companies like Levi's who are using AI generated models to model clothing. What about the actual diverse talent that exists that is waiting for you to come not only scout them but to give them the money that they deserve so they can actually carry on with their lives?
Yeah, that we know the jeans fit.
Absolutely.
It's a real product.
Hopefully jeans with pockets, but that's a whole different conversation. And so as much as technology is advancing, I also think that these extra efficiencies that we're having, or that we have created ourselves because they're all human made, are distracting from the real problems and creating solutions that don't actually need to be solutions. So AI generated models and AI generated speakers who identify as women shouldn't be the substitute of real people that are looking for jobs, placements, introductions, progression, and career navigation, and economic empowerment.
No, I completely agree.
It makes me go like whoosh, like that makes no sense.
And that's where AI becomes dangerous.
Absolutely.
When there is ways to utilize it and make it a powerhouse for innovation and automation, but not to fully take everything.
How are you using AI in your business? Are you using AI in your business?
Yes, we use AI in our business. We use it mainly on the sales and marketing side for automation, ease of work. I'm pretty sure like every single company in the world currently is using it.
Well, I actually am not yet. So give me some tips. How do I incorporate AI into creating sales and marketing efficiencies?
Yeah, you can create like automated workflows that help you. It's just out of convenience. More so, don't take the human element out of it. Like we still, proofread everything, write everything, personalization before it goes out. But yeah, we've incorporated it into different sales outreaches, marketing. Our marketing uses it for content generation, content ideas, ideation, and to grow out strategies. We also use it in strategies as well, because it does, although it's not going to give you the out-of-the-box strategies, it will give you, formulate, basic guidelines on if someone wants to start a business, how to start a business, how to write your business plan. It's not going to give you the out-of-box ideas, which you still need the human brainstorming element for it, but it's really handy to cut down the process, prepare presentations. We use it for that. We give them we give the AI the content, they'll create a presentation. You don't have to do much because you have brand guidelines to help, so it cuts that time down as well. That's where we mainly use it currently.
And as a woman running a business, has it been important for you to also self-promote and market yourself, to have a personal brand in activating business opportunities, or is that more of a myth that we need to debunk?
Yes, I have started this in the last year. I don't think it's female exclusive. I think it's founder exclusive. So like if you are a founder, pushing out your personal brand, because at the end of the day, people are still buying from a reputable person. And, currently working on my personal brand with the team. And I found it is slightly more credible, but at the same time, I'm still like involved in all the sales meetings.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what are your main platforms for you to build out your personal brand? And what is the objective through personal branding? Is it to show yourself as a human? Is it to show your personal life? Is it to create representation? Is it lead generation? Is it none of those things? And you're like, I don't have a strategy as yet, but I'm just doing it because that is an approach that we should take.
No, so the, I guess, objective of it is there's current professional and there's personal goals, right? So I'm showing on the platforms, LinkedIn's moved to being fully corporate to a little bit personal as well, which I think everyone's loving the storytelling. So that's one channel I definitely use more so for the business side. Instagram as well. So I'm always sharing on my personal Instagram what we're up to over at Agile, and also sharing like the life, because I created a company that employs people that work remotely. So
absolutely,
have to do it as well. And other platforms. That's it really for my personal platforms. I've done a few podcasts already. I've done a few articles as well that have been published last year. And then, yes, judging startup competitions. I've also mentored, me and my co-founder have mentored and coached other entrepreneurs and accelerators. So that's where I really want to push my personal brand out at the moment, is lead generation for Agile, plus also, you know, mentoring and helping other founders, female entrepreneurs, to advise on their businesses as well.
I think that's a great strategy. And touching on the topic of mentorship, you shared it earlier that you want to kind of unpack that. Mentorship is something that's really personal to me, and I love because generally I think if it wasn't for my mentors, I wouldn't be where I am now. And as I've mentioned, I don't know if we were recording or not when I said this, but I want to kind of blanket statement. I don't believe in speed mentorship. That's not something I believe in. I'm not saying that other people have to believe in it or not. It's not my beliefs. And what I mean by that, it's not a feeling, it's more like a fact. For me, I don't think a 10-minute conversation or a half-an-hour conversation with someone once is mentorship. I think it's a conversation. I think maybe it's coaching. I think there could be an element of a kind of strategic output of some kind, but I don't think it's mentorship. For me, mentorship is a relationship formed with 2 or more people over a period of time with a goal in mind, where you can adapt, you can ebb and flow, but you're also having a recurring conversation. And it's also a relationship. So a relationship for me is really important. It's, you know, it's platonic, yes, but it's someone that you want to check in with here and there, be that once a year, be that once a month. That could be formal or informal. And I think there's a lot of companies out there that are commercializing speed mentorship as if that's going to solve, you know, the problem. I don't think it's going to solve the problem. I think it's a good first step. But for me, it's, you have to get to the root of the problem, and then you have to kind of unpack it, and then you have to go forward with it. And also because I think, well, the stats that we know from our network, 3 reasons to why women feel they can't enter or progress in the workspace is lack of community and mentors, lack of confidence, and lack of career knowledge. And for them, the mentorship aspect of, especially when you think about social mobility, you think about culture, you think about, you know, first generation students, they need time to warm up and trust someone, to build that relationship with someone, to say this is where I need help, and then to ask for that help and know how to ask for help and carry on forward. So that's why we have an app coming out hopefully by the end of 2023, early 2024, which is if LinkedIn and Bumble had a baby, that would be the LMF network, but really trying to grow our mentorship program globally so that everyone can access it. And like I said, I'm not doing anything new. I'm just trying to do something slightly better and improve on what's already been built. But I think I've completely kind of, you know, apart from the sales pitch that I probably just did, to some extent, and the passion that you can hear, mentorship has really helped me because my mentors have been my managers. My mentors have been my CFOs. My mentors have been stakeholders that I've been super impressed by, who have taken me to the side and said, Sonya, don't do this, but do more of this. This is how we can help you level up. This is the task. Come back and feed it back to us and give us what your feedback is, and we'll give you feedback. But they've also been in a position where they've advocated for me and sponsored me and said, now that we understand your ability, we're able to actually support you in getting to that next role through sponsorship. So I think mentorship is core before sponsorship comes into play. And like I said, I wouldn't be here without my mentors, ultimately. And that's a big statement, but I'm happy to say that. And what about yourself? When did you first come across mentorship, and what does it mean to you before we get into like how it's really helped you?
I had a mentor from, you know, I mentioned it before, that really pushed me into taking the risk and moving into a role that I felt I wasn't comfortable to move into. And he really pushed me, like, because he believed in me at the time. And then he took me under his wing and mentored me for years. So I was so lucky because I also like admired him, and he inspired me to like always be pushing and growing myself. So it was a really great experience with mentors. And then what he showed me as being a mentor to me and what I got out of it, I wouldn't be in the position that I am now without having him as a mentor. And yeah, it made me think, okay, how do I want to be when I get to his level? And that is to give back to the talent that I see, whether that's in my company, whether that's external in my company, but how can I help others to reach their full potential as well by being their mentor? So I think for me, I gained a lot out of it. I grew into being an entrepreneur in the end and running my own company, designing my own life. And now it's time for me to give back.
And what are some practical things that your mentor did that you're like, oh, if I was to incorporate this, or for other people listening are able to incorporate this is what actionable mentorship looks like, rather than kind of performative allyship?
So, actions, I think that's it. Actioning, making someone like, it's not just about saying, this is what I think you should do. It's being accountable that the person that you're mentoring takes action and does it. That's one thing that he did so well with me, is like, hold me accountable. Like, I've given you the advice, now you're accountable to make it happen. And I'll guide you, just ask me the questions that you need to. And then also, it's another thing is open a conversation where if the person you're mentoring wants more, and they ask for it, give them more and show them how to do it. For example, I think 2 years in, I said, I want to know how to open a business, open a new country for the company. He was like, great, you can start from the bottom and look at how finance works, how to incorporate a company, how to get it off the ground, everything. And he was like, connected me with who in the company would make that work. And so I learned that. And I was like, okay, great. Now I've done it 6 months later. Where to next?
Yes.
You know, so then it really birthed that like energy of me, like to be like, okay, I managed to ask for what I want now, and he's given it to me, but like given me the resources to then be taught. So I think there needs to be that two-way street of, if you do want something and you want to learn something, ask for it. And with the mentor, give it with the resources and guide the person on how to do it.
I love that. And one thing you said that really stuck out to me was you said you designed your life. Now, I take that as someone who's hearing that saying, I take that as you took control of your life and you became an agent of change. And the reason why I say that is because I've had the pleasure at the Intercontinental in Lisbon to interview Joanna, Claudia and Stella. And all three people have said very similar things about being a woman in tech, a woman in business, a woman in career, generally. Someone who identifies as a woman, to say, if you want something, go and get it. No one's going to give it to you. You have to work for it. You have to hustle. You have to ask for help. But also you have to design the life that you want and figure out how you're going to get there. Bringing that back to you, having heard your story, am I right in thinking that you never knew that how to be an entrepreneur, but maybe a part of you in your gut knew that that's where you wanted to end up, and so you were maybe navigating different paths in order to get there?
Exactly. Exactly. I never knew that I would take the entrepreneurial journey. Honestly, was working for companies, and then after gaining a lot of experience about how to open a company, how to like build it, how to run it for someone else, I decided like, why don't we do it for ourselves?
Yeah.
And then, you know, not having to work in an office, not having to be, not pigeonholed, but like, I don't know, shackled to one location.
Yeah.
Just because that's where your work is.
So location freedom for you is quite important.
Location freedom.
Is time freedom important?
Yes.
And so when you think of the word freedom, often people think of financial freedom. But knowing what you know about entrepreneurship and knowing the many entrepreneurs that we've spoken to being in this world, we know that there's a lot more freedom that exists than just financial freedom. What are the freedoms that kind of motivate you?
I think the freedom, like location freedom, for sure. There's no way I'd be living in Lisbon, like, you know, running a business in Asia.
Absolutely.
That's wild, like,
yeah,
halfway around the world, or around the world. So location freedom is important. Time freedom is as well. I feel like as entrepreneurs though, we work so much harder and longer than anyone. So yeah, but hey, if I want to start at 5 a.m. and finish by 3, I can.
Yes.
If I want to continue working in the evening, I can.
And one thing that I've started realizing with that narrative, because I've said it and I'm like, what is that? Maybe it's decision freedom. And I don't know if that's a real thing, by the way.
Oh my God, yes. We are bootstrapped. Let me tell you.
Yes.
The freedom of making your own decisions and navigating your own destiny for the company. Wow.
Yes. And that's something that I've currently been navigating, or navigating is maybe the wrong word, but I've been like, what is that freedom that like drives me, and why do I not want to raise investment right now? I'm not saying eventually, for anyone listening, we might want to. And I'm like, oh, I think it's because I can do what I want when I want to do it.
Yeah.
Yes, you have clients. Yes, you have customers you have to serve. But also, if I was ill on Tuesday, I decided to keep on working, but at my own pace, because I knew that I could then take Friday, Saturday off. But that was my decision.
Yeah.
Obviously, entrepreneurs don't get sick days in the same way. But if it was my decision to start 3 businesses, that's my decision. If it's my decision to start a YouTube channel whilst running a full business, that's a decision I have, because you don't have to go back to an investor or a shareholder of any kind to have to justify what you're doing.
Yes, you're not shackled to an investor.
So is that one reason why you're bootstrapped?
Not the reason why we bootstrap. It's because bootstrapping is smarter than taking investment and diluting your shares. We didn't want to do that. We still haven't done it. It wasn't the path that we wanted to take.
And so do you think by not bootstrapping, you're building a lifestyle business? And I guess my secondary question is, because I laugh when I said it out loud, do you agree with the term lifestyle business?
Interesting. I've never thought about Agile as being a lifestyle business.
Have you heard of the term lifestyle business?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I hadn't until a couple of years ago.
I relate it to like really lifestyle things. But yeah, I hadn't considered that as that we could be. I guess there's probably an element to it, but we also have like our own goals for the company in a few years' time. We also have, are we going to be in it forever? We don't know. Do I want to start another company in the future? Maybe. So there's also this like, when you see growth happening over 4 years and it's year-on-year growth, you're kind of like, okay, what else can I do? What can I do next year? Kind of
Does the chase drive you?
Yeah.
But the chase of what?
Motivates me, just achieving. Just like constantly achieving.
Oh, sorry. But what are you achieving? And I only ask you this question because I'm currently at this point where I've had this very successful life in a very short period of time. I have done most things that I want to do off my bucket list in about 3 years.
Amazing.
Right? And honestly, I'm very grateful to say this, including being at the Intercontinental, of many hotels that I've had the pleasure of staying and working with over the last 3 years. Traveling, radio, book, business, health, gym, mentor. I wouldn't say the success isn't like 100% success, but I'd say I'm at a point where I feel I can achieve them, or I'm constantly improving on them, which I think is my version of success, is like constant improvement and constantly, starting from a really good space and then constantly kind of going upwards. And so recently I've been taking a step back purposefully to think, what are my values and what's my vision and what's my mission, and am I still a social impact business? Do I still want to be a bootstrap business? Do I still want to do X? Do I want to do Y? But also what really drives me, and I realize it's the chase. The chase really drives me. But what am I chasing? Who am I running from? What is that? Like, what's the root cause of that? I like the chase of knowing, can I do it? Oh, okay, I can. Okay, great. It doesn't mean I want to carry on doing it. So it's not consistency, it's the chase. Do you, I guess, as an entrepreneur, do you kind of get what I'm saying? Is it similar or is it very different?
No, I get what you're saying. And I think it's, when you set out personal goals, like, I don't think we quite knew that we were going to be as successful so quickly. And then you go, okay, got something here. What milestones can we plan for the future where we want to be? And we start looking 3-5 years ahead, and then setting goals for the company, and then constantly driving. So we wanted to sponsor, this has been our goal for the last 3 years, 100 years of education by the end of 2024. We're so on track to hit that.
Amazing.
And, once we reach 100, then what? And I have huge ideas how we're going to do beyond this space. And then, being the number one in customer service, like, these are the goals. Obviously, we have financial goals as well. But, like, when you see that everyone is working towards the same goals, it just makes you like, okay, what else can we do?
Yeah.
Where else can we take this?
But what about your personal successes? So it's interesting because you brought it back to your business, and maybe I feel like I am the business, which itself is quite a difficult space to navigate, because that's why we're building an app, so we can kind of navigate and divide the two different personalities that do exist. Do you feel successful as you? And how would you define that?
Well, I think personal success for me is actually building a business that has been successful, that's allowed me to live the life of how I want to live, right? So going back to the location,
absolutely,
independent, freedom. So that for me is success. I now have a really great work-life balance. Agile is also my life, like right now.
100%. Listen, that, I think people don't realize that your business is like,
it's an extension of me.
Absolutely. And I actually equate my business to my 4-year-old niece, right? So what I mean by that is the way that my niece is growing. So a good example is, when a baby can't walk and they need your help, and then when they find their legs, they're like running and bumping into everything, and eventually they're just kind of running, and you're like, can you come back here? Can you do this? What are you doing? That's literally how I feel my business is. I'm like, okay, when you needed me, I was there to help you, and then you found legs and you just ran into things, but it was working out, and now you're at this point where you're like,
see, this is a personal goal for us to get to that stage.
Yeah.
You know?
So
this is a personal goal.
Absolutely. And so I feel like I'm there. So that for me that's what I mean by a lot of, if you aren't a business owner, you won't really understand the attachment you have to your idea.
Yeah.
Right? And so you breathe it, you dream it, you sleep it.
Yeah.
Like I dream about emails that I have
write
not
the
sent.
notes in your notes app.
Absolutely.
You know, when you're coming out of the shower, like.
Yeah. I dream about emails that I haven't sent. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to send that proposal that was due XYZ time. You also spoke about the fact that you are building that personal brand. So what are some personal goals that you have in mind over the next 3 months, 3 weeks, 3 years that you might want to achieve? And how are you kind of working towards that whilst balancing actually running a business remotely?
So personal goals outside of work?
Yeah.
Actually, just to get through the next 6 months of balancing social life with traveling all around the world to weddings and while running the business, that's actually, it's not a goal, but it's going to be a little bit tough next year. I say that, it's tough, like, it's first world problems.
No, 100%, absolutely. We understand that too. Where are some of the places you're traveling to?
Cayman Islands.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, France. I'm also, for my personal brand, we're kind of building up for speaking engagements as well. There's a lot of tech conferences coming up. Well, the tech conferences start all again next year anyways, but in Asia, in Middle East, and around Europe. So, yeah, I want to get more involved to not only raise my profile, but raise the company's profile.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, that's definitely been a personal goal of mine to like get more involved with events and speak at events. Plus, I just had so much fun doing it recently. So I'm like,
so much fun.
Judging startup pitches, so much fun.
Absolutely.
I love watching people's ideas.
Yes.
And like how they plan for it to come to life.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just another personal goal in the next 6 months is to really focus on getting into mentor in some accelerators. So.
I love that. Well, hopefully people listening, watching and hearing can help you. You've obviously moved to Lisbon 3 years ago, like you've mentioned. What are some things that you'd recommend people see, do, places to eat, not to go to, not to touch? I mean, good or bad?
Where do I start? Lisbon has so many fantastic restaurants here. I'll send you a list, by the way. Some of my favorite places, and I won't give all because otherwise I'm never going to get in. But Palacio Teatro is beautiful. In the middle of the city, huge palace that does fantastic dinner. Palacio do Grilo. It's just a little bit out of Lisbon. But again, it's in a palace. They do this immersive theatre while you're dining.
Cool.
So it's really cool. There's some cute wine bars around town. I would say Pastéis de Belém. Have to go. It's a must. The little egg tarts. And during summer, all the beach bars along Caparica, so much fun. Sintra is a great day out as well. Whenever tourists or friends coming in to be in Lisbon, that's a great place. And also going to Porto. Porto is a great city. It's
I have heard
nice.
this. Absolutely. I mean, I went a few years ago, but actually today alone, I've had so many people recommend Porto. I'm like, that must be the next spot.
It's the next spot,
Yeah.
for sure. They have the restaurant scene there is pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
It's very steep hilly though. Like
Yeah.
I went a few years ago and I was like, you're literally going this way and then you're going this way. So your shoes have to be pretty firm with a good grip.
Exactly.
Otherwise you're gone.
No, exactly.
But that's why I kind of feel about Lisbon. I'm like, Lisbon is always a leg workout.
Slippery tiles.
It's slippery tiles and it's on a hill. So I'm like, whoever designed it maybe didn't really think about that as much because it doesn't rain a lot, but today's pretty rainy, so it's there.
Yeah. What else in Lisbon?
Have you started learning the language?
Funny you say this. No. That's my goal of next year because I'm like, I can't go another year without learning Portuguese. I'm not great with languages, by the way, but I'm going to try.
And what are some of the skills that you transferred from kind of your various roles into now moving into foundership?
I think my business skills, which is like more so the commercial side.
Yeah.
So I didn't have the technology piece. I have a tech advisor that came on board to actually build that out. I understand a little bit, but not really. I'm more on the commercial business side, business strategy. So yeah, I know how to make a company profitable, that's for sure. So I think those skills of what I learned throughout my careers become super valuable in building Agile. I will tell you, a year ago when, it was talks about a recession coming, Sequoia actually released a presentation PDF for businesses weathering the recession storm. And it has some great points in there. But last December, I decided this year is going to be about sustaining what we have, not too much about growth, because we're going to be kind of trying to grow in a market that is going to be working against us. So, stability was key. So I think keeping track of the trends, keeping yourself updated with what's going on economically in the world in different regions. Thank God Asia is so strong economically, and that's our core business. So we did have plans to expand into the US this year. We put everything on hold because we're like, okay, stability comes first. Let's focus on nurturing the current existing market and clients, and then we can look at growth plans in the next year. So I think having the skills of constantly keeping myself updated and having foresight on what is going on in the market was also key. And we still grew this year, which was great. So even though the plan was stability, we still grew. It was amazing.
I love that. And what about through your travel? So through the various cultures that you've kind of witnessed? Oh my God,
inclusivity.
That's what you're kind of, you've
and
really
also
learned.
Adapt how to manage multicultural teams as well. So obviously I had a huge team in China. It was around 30 people. Language barrier. Did learn Mandarin though. I was there
Amazing.
for 5 years. But learned enough to get by. Not an easy language, but it was great. I want to continue. Managing multicultural teams. Also navigating the financial landscape. So we deal a lot with payments in and out, cost to employees as well. So I learnt a lot in a lot of different countries that I was able to transfer, obviously, into the business as well. Management skills, patience.
So you would say traveling's been extremely helpful in your world, in both the corporate world, but now in your business world too?
Yeah.
And it's helped you?
Yeah.
And one thing you touched on earlier, this is my final question, is you touched on the future of work. So what are some of your predictions? What do you think the future of work looks like, and how can we get ready for it?
Great question. So I think the future of work, honestly, there's been so much discussions about remote work's not going to last, we're going to go back, but I totally disagree. I think we'll get more and more and more into the remote work because the younger generation are going to want more than just, office hours, higher salaries. So I think the future of work is definitely not how we know it today, but it's going to be more advanced. Speaking of AI, I think that being incorporated in businesses as well, and a skill I think people really need to learn how to use is how to incorporate or how to use AI in your jobs, because if you don't, you're going to be behind the ones that do know how to use it. It's super important. I don't think it's going anywhere either, and I think we're just going to see, hopefully we see the pay equality come up, but like everything is taking years. So
Jamie, thank you so much for coming on this episode today. How can people stay in touch with you and find out more about you and your business?
Hit me up on LinkedIn. It's Jamie Haerewa, or the company profile is Agile HRO, or you can visit our website and you'll find me on there as well, which is www.agilehro.com.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Sonya Barlow Show. My name is Sonya Barlow, and I am the host of this very authentic audio and video based podcast. Ultimately, I wanted to interview ordinary people who are becoming extraordinary. I really wanted to create something which doesn't necessarily exist on the internet today. And that's no noise, no clutter, to the point conversations with very cool people all over the world. If you have any questions that you want to answer, if you want to be a part of the show, or if you're just interested in where we're traveling next, drop me a line, hello@sonyabarlow.co.uk or @sonyabarlowuk. I won't keep you any longer because we have amazing interviews lined up. Let's get straight into the chat.